I would like to invite Sadhguru on the stage here.
Jananam sukadam maranam karunam milanam maduram smaranam karunam kalavashadiha sakalam karunam samayadipate akilam karunam. Every human being, in whatever sphere and scope of life they function in, they know some sense of fulfillment or joy only when they approach it with some sense of passion, whatever it is. Whether passion just for one person or larger things in the world, doesn't matter. Essentially, it's one's involvement, a passionate involvement in something which makes the difference. We may call this family, we may call this children, we may call this friendship, we may call this nation, we may call this a global community, but essentially a passionate involvement. So, when passion is unidirectional, we generally call it passion. If it becomes of larger sense of inclusiveness, we call it compassion. An all-encompassing passion. Well, there is no tax. There are Congress people here. There is no tax on love and emotion. Hello? New Jersey? Not yet. That's a dangerous thing. So, the sweetness of emotion, every human being should know. People know a little bit of love, anger, hatred, jealousy, fear, all kinds of nonsense going on. Our emotions are made within us. Hello? Is it made within you? Your emotion is manufactured within you. At least what comes from within you must be the way you want it. What comes from the world need not necessarily be the way we want it, because so many people are involved. Maybe they want to abuse you, maybe they do, at least they may do to me all the time. But what comes out of you must be the way you want it, isn't it? What comes from within you must be the way you want it. I'm sure if you are given a choice, what comes from within you, you want it to be at highest level of pleasantness, not of unpleasantness. So, Isha Vidya is an effort by a group of dedicated people. They think they're volunteers. But I'm actually a slave driver, making people work 20 hours a day, 7 days of the week, 365 days, non-stop going. Today, we are over 4,600 full-time volunteers, all of us working 7 days of the week, 365 days, on an average between 16 to 20 hours a day, all of us. And there are over 9 million volunteers who are working part-time and contributing in many ways to support this activity. The activity ranges from nourishment, health, education, environment, and above all, a non-denominational spiritual process approaching human well-being as a science, as a technology. For a long time, human beings have tried to address their well-being with their belief systems, with philosophies, with ideologies. But a time has come where more people on this planet are able to think for themselves than ever before in the history of humanity. Never before this many people in the world could think for themselves. They're thinking right, wrong, we can debate, that's not the point, but they're thinking. Just 100 years ago, in most societies on the planet, women were even punished just because they thought for themselves, not because they did something. They think for themselves always drew punishment. So straight up, 50% of the population has come into the thinking process. So never before in the history of humanity this many people could think. This means since some sort of logical structure has entered everybody's minds. You may think somebody is illogical, but in their mental framework they have their own sense of logic. So once a logical framework establishes itself, illogical aspects will collapse. So people are hanging on to a few things, but philosophies, belief systems which lived for a long time have collapsed in many ways in people's minds. They've kept it as an archive, just in case if the airplane they're traveling in goes into a bad turbulence, just then they think God. Rest of the time, they are… Hello? They're on themselves, because this is the nature of a thinking mind. The more it begins to think, the more that cannot be substantiated will start collapsing. Right or wrong is not the issue, but you just cannot believe anything once you start thinking. You hang on to things because there is fear, there is insecurity, there is uncertainty about life. Because of this, largely people are keeping their belief systems like insurance policy. They do everything possible, but just in case, if things go wrong, I have also paid my premium. Why I'm looking at this right now is, a time has come where you cannot satisfy people by making them believe something. You can to some extent, but beyond that point it will not go. Today it is time we approach this human mechanism because this is the greatest piece of technology on the planet, no question. How to conduct this in such a way that this will generate what you want, not what somebody provokes. Now the situations will not decide the nature of my experience, but I will decide the nature of my experience. This needs to come. Why this is important is, just to give you some perspective, in 2017, we have produced enough food for about 21.5 billion people. But we had only 7 billion people or little more than that. But still 30% goes hungry on this planet. Still 40% of humanity is badly malnourished, but we are producing 4 times the food that we actually need. Every one of us need to search within ourselves. Why? There is no food, somebody is starving, what can we do? But if there is food and somebody is starving, there is something wrong with us, isn't it? Hello? Somewhere our humanity has gone into storage. It's not active. So, Isha Vidya is an expression by a few hundred volunteers who are full-time on this. And well, in my opinion, it's very small. People make it big. Why I'm saying it's very small is, in India, there are 259 million children in schools. Well, we are handling, including the adopted schools, maybe about 220,000 children. 220,000 children and 259 million children is a big thing. Well, all the 259 million children don't need support. They have parents and they have economic capabilities to do. At least 35% of them cannot afford education. It is those children that we are looking at. And at least 35% of them do not have enough nourishment to last out the day at school. If they're outside, they will pluck something from a tree, here, there, something they will eat. You lock them up in a school, school is like a prison. There is no food anywhere to forage. A rural child knows how to, something he will do. He will go catch a fish in the pond, he will pluck a mango and eat it, he will find something else. But once you put him in the school, it's a no-food zone. There is really no food anywhere. You have to catch the rodents and eat, that's it. So, particularly school-going children lack nourishment because they go sit there from morning to evening and there is no food to find anywhere. So we found children come to school and by 1:30, 2 o'clock they're just wilting away. That's when we started the nourishment program. Well, for a small number of children, it's working wonderfully well. It's very difficult. I think she was trying to articulate what she saw there. I have not been to this Isha Vidya school, not even once I have managed to go there, and I go there determined not to, show my tears to them, but I have not been able to come out without tears in my eyes. Simply the joy of being there is so incredible, because the parents are in abject poverty. These children, nearly 60% or at least 47% are first generation going to school. And the way they're blossoming, the way their enthusiasm, they're wanting to know and learn, you just cannot come out of that place without tears in your eyes. So, this entire process has been happening in many different ways. Many individual human beings, corporations and others have been supporting. There are various efforts in the country, but unfortunately, for the last 15–20 years, many efforts which are essentially towards literacy is passed off as education. So I was determined that I'm not interested in literacy. What is the point signing your name? You can as well put your thumb imprint. Anyway, once you have digital stuff and all, they're asking for thumb impression, nobody is going by your signature. Hello? Even your iPad is asking for thumb imprint. If you go to the immigration, they're asking for thumb imprint. So what is the use of a signature? Just to learn to write your name, spend 5 years, manage to read 2 sentences. I think it's of no significance. We need proper education. Education which will get them out of that economic and social pit. That is why we focused on creating proper schools in remote areas. As good a school, or in terms of quality of education, as good as they would get in the urban centers. People said, why should we do this? Can't we multiply the same money? I said, quality is important. It's just not the numbers. Yes, it is true, because of this somebody else may be denied, but what is the point of an education which doesn't really make a difference? It needs to make a difference. And above all, a human being committing to do something to someone that they do not know, to someone that they may never see or meet in their life, but willing to commit to do something, is probably the highest level of expression of one's humanity. Thank you very much. And we are inculcating this in the children, that I want them to know people who do not know them, people who do not know where they live, who they are, probably never see them in their life, but they are supporting your education. This is something that is constantly inculcated in the children, because in today's world, one thing that's happening to this world is because of the type of news media that we have and the type of social media that is going on, where only disasters are news. Anything good is not newsworthy in this world today. Only something bad should happen. You want to get on the front page of the newspaper, don't worry about doing something wonderful. You may never get there. You just have to kill 10 people, you will be on the front page. Yes, you have to do something terrible to get onto the news. So, when we are disseminating this kind of stuff, the basic trust in another human being is being completely lost. This loss is not a small thing. When human beings cannot trust each other, wherever we go, we look at every new face in a suspicious manner, well, we are destroying the very basic fabric of human societies. Because human societies will thrive only when we are able to trust each other. When we see the best in the other person who is sitting there, not when we suspect the worst of every face that you see in the world. Right now, the way we're cultivating the world is just this: wherever we look, we think they may do the worst possible thing to us. No. Why are we thinking like this? This is being promoted. How many criminals do you think exist on this planet? What percentage? 2% of the population may be criminal? Hello? In America, what's the percentage? 2%, 5%? For this 2 or 5%, why are we sacrificing 95%? 95% of the people never committed a crime. Why are we making the world look like everybody is ready to commit a crime all the time? Most people have never thought about it in their life that they want to commit a crime. This is a fact. Hello? Yes, terrible things have happened in the world, but most human beings have never thought of committing a crime in their life. But right now we have created this distrust. From the youngest child, everybody is in a state of distrust. So this is something that we are trying to put back into the child's life. There are people on this planet who care for you. They don't know who you are. They don't even want to come and see that we have done this. How is my child growing up? No, it doesn't matter who he is. We know he is well, and that's all that matters to me. So this trust is something that is very, very important. These few 100,000 children who are with us, we are constantly inculcating this. We are telling there are people far away who do not know you, but really, really care for you, and they're doing this for you. And this gratitude is one dimension of the school that you will see. If any visitor comes, the way the children respond to the visitors is amazing. When those of you who are from Indian origin, at least, when you go back to India, just walk into some school unannounced, okay? Don't inform them you're coming. Simply, on the Google map you can see, and just walk. You will see your experience will be like this. There is a profound sense of gratitude in the children. I think that is more valuable than education itself for me.
So thinking a bit about the work you're doing in India and here in America, I've heard you speak a lot about teachers and principals and the importance of educators in this mix of supporting children. So I'm just curious your thoughts about how we can support teachers and educators in this endeavor so that they're showing up with that same joy, that same gratitude, and bringing that to children. And thinking about that here in the United States, how are we supporting teacher well-being so that we're creating environments of flourishing and thriving in our schools here and in India as well.
There was a gypsy in India. You don't have any gypsies left anymore. We still have them. Some tribes, which are gypsy tribes, which are nomadic and constantly moving. So, one day, a young boy doing his own thing, the father gets angry with him and says, "You fool, if you don't learn some jugglery and some tricks, I will put you to school and you will become an educated man and you will suffer from endless want." Unfortunately, the world's education has gone this way, not in one place, everywhere. I want you to look at this. Today we are talking about ecological damage, about ripping the planet apart. Educated people are causing more damage to this world, or uneducated people are causing more damage to this world? You must tell. Hello? Educated people. So obviously, in the name of education, we're driving people in a direction where all they will do is take more and more. If you're really educated, you must be able to live with just what you have within you, isn't it? This is what education is supposed to be. Education is supposed to be a wealth by itself. Huh? Hello? Education is supposed to be wealth. If you're educated, you must have enough within yourself, you can almost live without anything from outside. But now we have created an education which creates an endless amount of want. And we are always seeing how to find more and more means towards this. I'm not here to propound a philosophy for you, but all I'm saying is, education in the world has taken a wrong turn, everywhere. Education is no more about enhancing human horizons. It's about how can I get more. It's all about that. If you don't change the context of this, the content of the education is not important, something we have to impart. But the context, how it is delivered, if we do not change this, well, schools or the education system on the whole is like an industrial process. Everybody is going through the same extruder. Well, in some places, some individual schools might have found innovative ways to help cultivate a child to a better possibility, but I think that effort is very, very small. Everywhere in the world, it's very, very small. We are doing other kind of schools called Isha home schools, where children are being cultivated in a very careful manner. Well, these children are fortunate, but we can't scale it up. It's very limited. I'm sure it's the same thing everywhere in every country, that sort of education we're not able to scale up simply because of the amount of input that it takes to make that happen. Well, there are population pressures, we have to educate every child, so we will set up an assembly line through which everybody has to go through. You like it, you don't like it. This could change in the next 5 years or 10 years' time, because schools as you know it, education as you know it, may just collapse because of the artificial intelligence and the digital transmission of information. If information is all you're going to transmit in a school, it will be just meaningless in another 5 years or 10 years' time. Already it is largely. So we need teachers who will be inspiring, who will be, in child's eyes, they must be like superstars. We don't need those serious, long-faced chemistry, they know some chemistry, they know some physics, they know some mathematics. This will be meaningless because it will be on my phone. Everything that you want to learn will be on the phone. So we need human beings who can inspire you, who can ignite a different level of seeking and searching within yourself, so that you will become, you will use education as a way to expand your horizons rather than just make a living. So this is something we must decide. It's a hard decision to make maybe for a lot of people, but we must decide whether we want an education which will help people to make a living or to make a life out of themselves.
That shines upon the earth, that gives me hope, you give me inspiration. 2 weeks ago on the news, there was reservoirs in India that were drying up, and they talked about 600,000 people were out without water in India. And I kept thinking about what you do with the Rally for Rivers, and I haven't heard any updates, and you're the source. Can you give me us an update on what's happening with the increasing the water levels and people beginning to change their thoughts about conserving of water and taking care of our planet? Because I believe that's the glue that holds everybody together is the environment. And you are I just thank you very much. Didn't get an update. And also, how'd the golf game go today? How did the golf game go today?
I was playing with too many people. But she took away my clubs.
Got a good price for them.
Well, for those of you who do not know anything about it, I'll just introduce this a bit. Rally for Rivers, it's been on my mind for more than 15 years, but I never spoke to anybody. I'm made like this. I let things cook in myself and find structure before it comes out. So in 2017, I announced the date 59 days ahead of time, exactly 59 days. And for the first time, I spoke to the core group and said, we need to do a rally like this to rejuvenate India's rivers. And mentally I've written a policy. Somebody needs to sit with me and write it down. They said, this is a nationwide movement, Sadhguru, how can we do it in 59 days? I said, we have to start on this date, it has to go. So the whole organization went into a circus across the country. So we decided to cover 16 states, starting from the southern tip called Kanyakumari to the Himalayan ranges. I decided to drive myself personally. So I personally drove 9,300 kilometers in 29 days of the rally. And we did 142 events in this 30 days, or 29 days to be precise. 162 million people participated in a 30-day movement. Never before for anything, 162 million people have participated for any movement. So, essentially what I realized was, as I drove through the country, covering 16 states, with 6 different political parties ruling these states at that time, and all of them willing to come, usually these opposition parties never agree upon each other, you know what I'm saying. In India it's little more keyed up. So 6 different parties from this political spectrum of India, all of them in one voice supporting me and participating in the Rally for Rivers, and along the way these millions and millions of people participating, incredible level of support. I suddenly realized everybody wanted this to happen. They were just waiting for an idiot who is willing to bell the cat. And the moment I stood up, everybody was there wanting to support it. So there it was. So when we made this document, which is a recommendation policy for how to manage India's rivers, how to preserve and revitalize the rivers, because on an average, all Indian rivers in the last 50 years have depleted 40%. Some of them over 70%. I don't know what all different states you come from, Andhra people are there? Oh, you're doing great here, all right? Krishna is over 72% down, Godavari is over 35% down, Kaveri is over 46% down, Narmada is over 60% down, Ganga is over 37% down, okay? So like this we can go on with terrible statistics. So this has been on my mind. So when we wrote this policy and that evening around 6:15, 6:20, I handed it over to the Prime Minister. And next day morning, we gave a physical copy to him, this policy. Next day morning by 11:30, the Prime Minister's office calls and says, we need a soft copy because Prime Minister has formed a special group to look into the document and implement it. I thought, this is quick. This is really quick, because in a democratic country, it is the number of people that you gather which will determine these things. 162 million people. When they saw the support, every government immediately stood up and said, yes, this needs to be done. So within 2.5 months, there is a planning commission, which is today called as Niti Aayog, which sent an official recommendation, which made this policy the official recommendation of the federal government for all the state governments, because river in India, I think it is so here also, is a concurrent subject. The central government can only recommend. It is only the state governments which can actually act upon it. So, 3 states are very proactive and they're implementing the policy very vigorously. Another 6 states, we've signed MOUs with them. And 1 state, that is Maharashtra, are there people from Maharashtra, Mumbai people? So Maharashtra has been a super proactive state because they have suffered enough with water deficiencies. So there is a particular river called Vagari in a region called Yavatmal. Yavatmal became notorious because it is known as the suicide capital of India. The number of farmers committing suicide in this region was so heavy because of the farmer distress. So we took this up, now we've had a cabinet approval and we have a budget approved for about $75 million. And this is being in the process of implementation. This is a hands-on project we've taken on. We have taken this challenge in about 2 to 3 years' time. We will ensure there's not a single farmer suicide in this region. And we will double the farmer's income in 2 to 3 years' time. And on an average of, let's say in 8 years' time, we will see the farmer's income has gone up 4 to 5 times, that is 500%, and the river will flow. This is the plan. Our volunteers are on the ground, meeting every single family, and every single family has a distress phone number, that in case of any distress, they can call one of the volunteers and immediate action will happen, because we don't want any more suicides to happen in that region. So we've taken this hands-on. The next level of project right now is, since morning I've been on the phone from very early in the morning, endlessly, because now we are crafting a next level of program called Kaveri Calling. For those of you who come from Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, you know these 2 states are constantly at loggerheads with each other, fighting for Kaveri water. How many of you, Kannada and Tamil people? Okay. Tamil people think Kannada people are drinking up too much water. Kannada people think Tamil people are drinking up too much water. All the time they're accusing each other, you are drinking more water, I'm drinking more water. This is a simple process. See, in this table, each one of you have your own glass of water. So you all sit there in a very civilized way. Suppose there was only 1 glass of water for all of you, fighting would happen or not? Hello? It will happen. Inevitably it will happen, isn't it? So this has been happening. Kaveri is very dear to me because I grew up on the banks of Kaveri and I spent lots of time in this river. Once I floated down the river for about 165 kilometers, 13 days. I was on the river, just 4 truck tubes and a few bamboos. I floated down, I lived off the river. In my experience, this river and this region, I did not see this as a water resource or something. I saw the river as a life much larger than me, a mega life which has been there for 1,000,000 years. People like you and me come and go, but rivers and forests have been there forever. It is because they have stayed alive for so long, we come and go. If they are not there, we cannot even come and go. So when I saw that Kaveri has been depleting, the scientists and activists, not activists, the scientists say Kaveri has depleted by 46%. But they are taking the monsoon time flows also. They're taking the overall average and saying 46%. But in the month of September, October, if you look at Kaveri, how it was 45, 50 years ago when I was close to Kaveri, how she is today, she's 25% of what she was then. So people are wondering why there is water shortage. I'm wondering why they don't realize that we've been working hard to destroy everything around us. Just to give you some understanding of this, in the Kaveri basin, in the last 50 years, we've removed 87% of the green cover. What is the plan? I don't know. In the Ganga belt, for example, Ganga basin accounts for 25% of India's geography and 33% of India's agriculture. We have removed 92% of the green cover. Why this green cover is important is, why you would not understand probably by looking at United States rivers is, because this is a temperate climate. In a tropical climate, all our precipitation comes in 45 to 50 days of monsoon. The rain that comes down in 45 to 50 days, we need to hold it in the land for 365 days. The only way you can do this is by having vegetation, substantial vegetation. There is simply no other way. So when we remove the vegetation, what is happening now is when the monsoon comes, there are heavy floods, and at the same time, there are floods and droughts happening in the same region. In one part of the river, there is a flood, in another part of the river, there is a drought. Because what comes down today just goes down today to the ocean. It doesn't stay. It was staying because there was so much vegetation. As we remove the vegetation, our ability to hold the water is going away and it's running away. Because of this, there is a excessive exploitation of the groundwater. Probably India is doing the highest level of groundwater exploitation. It is around 81%. 81% of the farm requirement is being taken from groundwater. We have borewell companies and borewell companies and borewell companies digging deeper and deeper and deeper, just to make you understand what it is. In Coimbatore city, where we are right now, when I first went there, 60 to 80 feet, we were getting enormous amount of water. Today, to get the same amount of water, we're going 1400 feet. We may strike oil. We keep going like this. But this is how it is. And because the river water is not going to the ocean, India is a peninsula, we have 7,400 kilometers of coastline. So, this coastline has a very special ecosystem. Because of the river flow, the marine water and the river water mixes up and there is a belt around the peninsula. And this amount of fresh water mixed with marine water is important to direct the monsoon towards the land. This has happened this time. I've been talking about this for the last 30 years. I've shouted myself hoarse. People thought I've lost my mind. Now they're all sitting up and listening because this time monsoon came like this, avoided the land and went like this. Now they're all wondering why. I said, I've been telling you all along that once the river water stops flowing into the ocean, the rains will not come in your direction. They will go into the ocean. They will not come towards the land. And also because there is something called as transpiration. Amount of vegetation will determine where it sheds the rain. The cloud will pass, but where actually rain comes down depends on the transpiration process. So there are many aspects to this. I don't want to go into the whole science of it. The simple thing is this. There's a beautiful saying, the ancient wisdom in India is like this. In Tamil language there is a saying that only if Kaveri comes walking, she is prosperity. If she comes running, she is a disaster. If she has to walk, there needs to be substantial vegetation so that water is held and it comes slowly. We must understand in a tropical region, river is not the source of water. River is the destination for the water. It should not reach the destination so quickly. it should go slowly. So for this, to convert 1/3 of Kaveri Basin, which accounts for about 83,000 square kilometers, right now we are doing this movement in the month of September. I am personally with a team of people, I am riding on a motorcycle, 1400 kilometers we are riding along the river Kaveri, camping along river Kaveri and doing about 35 events creating awareness. We are asking the governments to give us some incentive towards for the farmers to shift from normal farming to agroforestry. We've already converted 69,760 farmers in Tamil Nadu from regular farming to agroforestry, and their incomes have gone up anywhere between 6 to 8 times in about 8 to 10 years' time. So it is an economic plan with a very positive ecological impact, because in a country like India, where there is such a pressure of population and land, proportion is such, unless economy and ecology walk in hand, if they go against each other, it's not going to work. They have to go hand in hand. It's very, very important that ecological solutions are also economic solutions for the people. That is how this is crafted. We want to push towards converting 1/3, that is 33% of Kaveri belt into green cover. We need as much support as we can get from across the world. We have not yet started the campaign from July 16th, which is the Guru Purnima. We are launching the campaign, and in the month of September we actually go. If you want to travel with us down the Kaveri for about 13 or 14 days, you are welcome to do that, but you need to register. We will be taking about 125 to 150 people max in that campaign. So you will get to camp in some really beautiful places in Karnataka where there is a lot of wildlife, but once we enter Tamil Nadu, there is no wildlife or forests there along Kaveri. So there are a lot of significant, powerful spiritual places or temples which are built for water element, temples which are built for fire element like this. So we are doing a sacred tour along the next leg of the tour in Tamil Nadu. Above all, the most important thing is this will change the dynamics of farmers' economic condition, because that is the only way to bring a solution. So that's where Rally for Rivers is, and it is very vibrant. And I gave a call during Rally for Rivers. I asked the youth to come and serve for 3 years for Rally for Rivers. Hundreds of them have come full-time. Many of them have resigned or given up well-paying jobs and they're working. I said there's only one qualification. Just for 3 years, don't ask one question, what about me? Just one question you don't ask me, then we'll make this a success. So these youth who have come from different parts of the country, we have trained them and now put them on the ground. They're doing an incredible amount of work. All we are doing is their transportation and their food is being taken care of, and they are doing such a fabulous job out there. The most important thing of this is the soil has gone very, very weak in India. We must understand this is a land which has known agriculture longer than anywhere else on the planet. Over 12,000 years we've been farming the same land. And we managed to keep it fertile. But in last 2 generations, or 1 generation actually, in the last 40 years, the soil quality has gone down so much that the food that we grow has no strength in it. That's what has happened. The real problem is soil. If there is not enough organic content in the soil, you cannot retain water in the soil. It's slowly we're converting fertile soil into sand-like situation. So the United Nations has given a prescription that minimum 2% organic content should be there in soil to consider soil as soil. But today, in nearly 25 to 27% of Indian soil, the amount of organic content has become 0.05%. 60% out of 160 million hectares of arable land, 104 million hectares of arable land is right now being labeled as distressed soil. With 1.4 billion people, what is the plan? This is not a simple thing. It's a tremendous issue. This could spell which way India goes. This is… when I said this, people thought I'm alarmist, but now dead bodies are falling. I said last year, you need to take care now. I've been going hoarse, talking about this forever, but if you don't take care, you will see dead bodies, not in dozens. You will see them in hundreds. If you don't wake up, you will see them in thousands, or maybe hundreds of thousands, because that's where the water situation is going. But this year, governments have woken up and the Prime Minister has given a call, big movement is happening, but this is not something that you're going to fix in a matter of 1 or 2 years. If we want the soil to become rich, there are only two ways: leaves from the trees and the animal waste. There's simply no other way to put organic content back into the soil. Trees have gone long time ago, animals are all traveling abroad. Yes, sir. India has become the largest beef exporter. If you say one word, people think you're a religious nut. Yes, if you try to talk about it, people think you're some kind of a religious nut because you don't want cows or this. So we're pushing for a law. If anybody wants to own 1 hectare of agricultural land, they must have 5 bovine animals on the land. Otherwise, they must be dispossessed of the land, because we are killing the soil. We have no business to leave a barren soil to the next generation. It doesn't matter if you don't build industries. It doesn't matter if you don't build industries, it doesn't matter if you don't build big marketplaces, but we must leave a rich soil to the next generation, because that's what makes these bodies.
How can we resist not comparing ourselves with others, and how not to always seek approval from others?
This is an ailment we are cultivating from a very early age, because even in a kindergarten school, somebody is first, somebody is last, and somebody is 1, 2, 3. So you get this problem that I want to be number 1. I don't know, what is this pursuit about the smallest number in the numeral, in the mathematical? If you said, I want to be 1,000,000, I can understand. I want to be 1. Very small aspiration. So, if you are number 1, what about the rest? So you essentially enjoy other people's failures. When you thrive on other people's failures, I don't call that success, I call that sickness. What do you think? Hello? Well, I want to be well, this is not a problem. But I want to be better than you, this is a problem. Because you cannot be better than anybody or worse than anybody. Human experience of life is not determined by what you have or what somebody thinks or not. It's determined by the fundamental nature of how it works within you. So, you seek approval, you compare yourself, because this infection has already happened from an early age. You're always thinking, who is better than who? Have you found another person exactly like you on this planet anywhere? No. Hello? You're a unique creature, aren't you? And that is the saving grace. Just imagine, if there was one more person like you in your home, could you live there? Hello? One is too much, isn't it? So when you're such a unique creature, what are you trying to compare yourself with somebody with? So essentially this problem about comparing yourself with somebody, wanting to be better than somebody has come because our systems of education have not cultivated this dimension, how to find a profound worth within myself. this dimension is simply missing. It's all about how am I one step ahead of you. See, if you're trying to be one step ahead of me, maybe you could fly, but now you're happy walking one step ahead of me. What a tragedy, isn't it? Maybe you could be flying, who knows? What is your competence? But because you compare yourself with somebody else, you will end up doing, if they are doing one nonsense, you will do little more nonsense and think you're better than them. The entire human potential and human genius has been destroyed on this planet because of this. Right now, I would say not even 1% of human beings really allow their genius to overflow. Rest of them are always trying to be one step ahead of somebody else. This is a major disaster. So maybe when schools are destroyed, I'm saying once technology comes at a certain level, you will see schooling, as you know, will be destroyed. I think probably it's another 10, 15 years away, maximum 20 years away. Schools will be destroyed, they won't exist. The way you know, that go there, sit there and learn this and that for a full day and come back, that kind of school will go away. So, when that happens, maybe a more personal application will come. Probably it'll be a little better place where it's not about being better than somebody, it is about finding some worth within yourself. See, this happened in many different ways. I remember this very well. In Mumbai, Mazagon docks, Mumbai people are there. In 70s, all this labor used to go into strike. One reason that they went for strike at that time is, the first gantry was installed to unload ships. At that time, most of the vessels, seafaring vessels, were anywhere between 25 to 30,000 tons. To unload a 25,000 ton vessel, the labor, the physical labor which goes inside and carries bag by bag, sack by sack or whatever, they were taking anywhere between 23 to 28 days. Today, in the modern ports, even in India, the vessels are all over 100,000 tons, some of them nearly 250,000 tons. They unload them in less than 24 hours because of machinery. So when this machinery came, the labor went into strike because man's muscle was being replaced by machine. I want all the ladies to appreciate these machines. Only because of these machines, man's muscle became irrelevant, and that's why all of you are sitting here. Yes, yes. If man's muscle was supreme, whoever had the big muscles would be the boss here. We would make you the king if you really had big muscles at one time. Today, if you have big muscles, at the most we'll put you at a security job outside, at the gate. So now memory has taken the place of the muscle. Today, if you read 10 books and remember, we'll call you a scholar. If you just read one book, you become a religious person. And yes, you can become a representative of God because you just only read one book. Just memory. This always bothered me. When I went to school, when I was 5, 6 years of age, I just looked at these teachers strutting around. I thought, they just read a book a few years ahead of me. How does it make them so supreme? I just never understood that. So somebody reads a book a few years ahead of you and they're strutting around as if they're on top of the world. This will go because my phone can do 10 PhDs a day. It has enough memory to do that. So this whole thing about carrying memory in your head and thinking that you've gotten somewhere will go away. Why I'm saying this regarding your question is, somebody can remember a lot of things. Somebody cannot remember so many things. They should not decide who is better than who, isn't it? Right now, the biggest mistake our education systems have made is, we have made people misunderstand memory as intelligence. As machines come, you understand memory can be stored, what you can store in your entire brain, a machine can store it in a small piece of something. Yes? So no. So, as man's muscle became irrelevant, your memory will become irrelevant. So then what do you think will be the most important thing? What kind of a human being you are will become the most important thing. Wonderful times coming, huh? So, with yourself, why are you bothered how somebody else is? You should have no time for anybody. There is enough work to do upon this. Hello? Yes or no? There is enough work to be done upon this. Where is the time to judge other people as good or bad? And then place yourself above them or below them. This happened. Can I tell you a joke? A lady went to the butcher's shop and she went to those chicken which were hanging upside down. You know, for a chicken, its feathers are its dress. But we pluck them out and then we say it's a dressed chicken for some reason. So they dressed them up like that. And they were hanging upside down. So this lady went, lifted a wing, smelled and wrinkled her nose, lifted a leg and wrinkled her nose. Like this she was going from chicken to chicken. It was having an effect on all the other customers who were there. So the butcher saw it is having an effect on the customers, so he went and tapped on the lady's shoulders. She turned around. He said, "Ma'am, can you pass a test like this? So don't put anybody to test that you yourself cannot pass." Right? It's okay, people are made different ways, you don't have to put yourself above them or below them.
So my question is the role of deception and lying that I've kind of been observing in the world. So I've almost noticed that to operate in business and in government, there's a level of deception that's validated, that you almost need to be able to withhold information strategically or kind of mislead people at different times. And being on the spiritual path, there's so much of an emphasis on truth, and it almost seems at times that those two can be at odds with one another. So how do you reconcile being someone that lives within truth, but also becoming an effective leader and being effective in the role that you have to do in the world?
What kind of spirituality are you doing?
I'm very
think
confused.
you're taking your high school moral science seriously. You're taking your high school moral classes very seriously and thinking that is coming in conflict. Yes, of course it'll come in conflict because that was never supposed to be practical. Suppose you play a game. Let's say you play tennis. Do you want to place the ball where your opponent is not expecting, or do you want to place it where they're expecting? In somebody else's view, you can put makeup and think they're enhanced, you may feel enhanced because they think you're enhanced. But in your experience of life, can you be enhanced without enhancing some faculty of yours? Hello? You can see better, hear better, speak better, do something better. Only then you feel enhanced, isn't it? Hello? So spiritual process is about enhancement of who you are, so that you can function from a higher level of, higher perspective of life. If you are very basic, you will function in a basic way. If you could do anything you want, then you will function. Have you seen, when you are very capable, you are also very magnanimous? Hello? Generous? Yes or no? When you are struggling, you are quite nasty. Hello? Because you yourself are meager, then you become stingy, then you become mean because you are so meager. It's very important to enhance yourself in all levels, in terms of your joy, in terms of your peacefulness, in terms of your faculties, in terms of your abilities. You must enhance yourself. That is when you can be a magnanimous life. Otherwise, what are they to give when you yourself are a beggar throughout your life? When constantly you're struggling to have something, how will you do anything truly wonderful? It's not possible. It doesn't matter what values you carry, all those values don't work. You can pretend. You can pretend in small ways. You cannot really do anything big unless you are enhanced within yourself, isn't it? So enhancement will not come. If it happens, then you'll play the game well. You will enjoy that somebody is hitting the ball in such a way that you can't get it, but you go and get it. That's when you're a great player, isn't it? So that's the same in business, that's the same in government, that is the same in international transactions. Everywhere that's the whole thing, because they want to hit the ball in such a way that you can't get it. If you can't get it, you have not strived to enhance yourself. The problem with most people is they are trying to enhance their activity without enhancing themselves. If you enhance activity without enhancing yourself, of course you freak with at every turn that happens in your life. See, successful people are freaking their minds out simply because they have upped their activity without upping themselves. Without upgrading this one, you upgraded the activity, it's freaking the hell out of you. If you upgrade this, then activity will upgrade itself, you don't have to do anything. It's like, what do you drive? Suppose you got a bicycle, going, nice, it's good exercise. That is nice. But suppose you bought a Ferrari. Suddenly you don't have to bother about speed. If you touch it, it goes. Huh? Really? You don't have to do it. Simply if you touch it, boom, it'll go. Why? The machine is enhanced. If you enhance this machine to the highest possible level, you don't worry about enhancing activity. Activity will get enhanced by itself. Now you're trying to enhance activity without enhancing the machine. If you fail, you will suffer. If you succeed, you will suffer. Thank you very much. I think people are hungry for dinner.